Hi, I'm Dana G with the Province newspaper. I'm here on the Orpheum stage. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to break into song or dance because that would be embarrassing for all of us. Why I'm here today is because the Orpheum has been picked as one of the top touring venues in the country, and the Heritage Site is also going to be hosting the BC Entertainment Hall of Fame induction this weekend. So we thought this would be a great time to go behind the scenes of this beautiful, beautiful old building and, poke around a little bit. So we're inside the Orpheum now with Chris Davies, who's a volunteer tour guide here. Now, Chris, before we go off and see some of your favorite places in this fabulous old building, tell us a little bit about her. How old?
It's just over 80 years old. It was built in 1927. They started building in January, and believe it or not, they finished the building in November 1927. So 10 months to build this magnificent edifice.
Well, we could use builders like that now, couldn't we?
Well, they had about 600 people, I think, working on it. And as you'll see when we go through some other parts of the building, what looks like elaborate hand-carved work is actually mass-produced. They had a factory down at Helmcoln and Richards that put stuff in molds and made a lot of the stuff that you see actually hanging on the walls here.
So, Chris, the theatre was built in 1927, went on for quite a few years successfully, and then sort of went a little bit moribund and needed to reinvent itself. And that happened in when, the late 70s?
73, actually. That was a time when famous players wanted to either tear it down or convert it into a multiplex, a 6 or 9 screen theatre. But the citizens of Vancouver almost went up in arms over this because they didn't want to lose the Orpheum. So,
Chris, you mentioned earlier that when you're giving tours, one of the questions that you're most often asked is about the dome here in the Orpheum, this fabulous dome. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
In 1927, that dome was white. When movies became the predominant feature, it had acoustic tile. But in 1973, the decision was made, as you know, to refurbish the theatre, and what you see there now is what happened. The architect engaged, Paul Merrick, brought in Tony Heinsbergen, who'd been in charge of decorating the theatre in 1927. He was down in California, in Hollywood, as a set decorator and designer, and at age 81 he came up here and he painted everything you see on the dome. He didn't do it on its back like the Sistine Chapel. It was done in a studio flat, and then the panels were attached to the dome.
Now, we're right above the dome, right?
Exactly. The dome, the painted side is on the other side here. This is a shell which is hung by wires, as you can see, from the roof of the theatre. It is truly a facade that you're looking at from the other side.
If you got to do any work on it up here, like say one of those wires in the middle, how do they get at it?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure. But actually, you can walk on this stuff. It's thick enough. We don't encourage people to do that, but you can walk on it.
Now, this reminds me right off the top of my head, it was like a scene from The Fugitive. I expect someone to jump out or jump through it. Where are we exactly now in the theatre?
Well, it's a bit more mundane than that, unfortunately. This is part of the original air conditioning system that the theatre had in 1927, when air was brought in from outside and cleaned by various purposes and then blown over huge blocks of ice to cool it down in the summertime and then distributed through the theatre. You can still see the original distribution in the theatre under the seats, but we don't do that anymore because it's very inefficient. We used to actually make the ice here. They had an ice-making plant here. Tons and tons of ice. Okay, now we're behind the acoustic shell on the stage, and there's this little tunnel that enables performers to get from one side to the other without interrupting what's going on the stage.
Dressing room. Now you're taking us into, obviously,
the Stars
dressing room. Now we're going into, this is the Maestro's Bramwell Tovey's.
This is where Bramwell Tovey changes his clothes.
Okay, so here we are, we're in the dressing room. Now, Chris, looking around, I wouldn't exactly say this is glamorous, but that's not really needed, is it, backstage?
No, it's utilitarian. It's a place to get ready to go to work on the stage. And while you might want to relax at halftime or in the intermission, basically you wash your face, put your makeup on, change your clothes, etc. But as you can see, we've spared no expense in furnishing this place.
Now, what does someone like the Maestro Tovey do before he goes on stage? Do you have any idea what he's up to in here?
I wish I did, but he doesn't allow me into his dressing room.
Now, Chris, for someone like me who's a bit bossy, I just gravitated towards this part of the theatre. What goes on here? We're right backstage.
Well, this is light control panels here, as you see, and the stage manager's office is behind us, and the head carpenter has a desk in there as well. So anything that needs to be done on the stage is really organized by those people.
Chris, you were saying you host tours through here. People have to pay, a fee to do it, but that money actually goes into the BC Entertainment Hall of Fame.
It is
right?
one way of raising some money to help the Entertainment Hall of Fame programs, which include not only the pictures you see on the wall, but scholarships for promising young artists as well. And those public tours take place in the summertime, but people can also arrange private tours if they have a sufficient number of individuals, and of course they have to do that through the Vancouver Civic Theatre's board to make sure that there's no performances going on when the tours take place.
It would be a bit embarrassing walking in, right, in the middle of something. But you can go to www.vancouver.ca, the theater section, to find out more about taking those tours with Chris. It's very fascinating.